Welcome, everybody. I'm very happy that you're all here today and for this presentation given by Marilyn Young. Maybe you already know her. If you are not, well, you're going to discover a very beautiful soul, very generous, an empath person, so devoted to human beings. I mean, it's been my pleasure to meet her in the numerology course with Radley Valentine. And today she's going to talk about abundance. And on my part, I'm an artist and I'm a card deck creator and also certified for different things regarding angels, auras, and tarot, as well as Marilyn too. She has a lot of knowledge in all those disciplines. So today she's going to give us a very beautiful presentation about abundance. So I hope that you all enjoy, and I know I'm going to enjoy it too very much. So Marilyn.
Thanks, Louise. It's great to be here, and it's so awesome to see so many beautiful and familiar faces and new faces. So thanks everybody for coming, like I say, on your busy Saturday, I'm sure. So I hope we have some fun in this next hour or so. We'll talk about creating abundance with spirit, and I'm sure that probably all of you, most of you, if not all of you, could do this talk as well, because Spirit came in and just said, because I was asking, okay, so I have a topic now, what do I say to people? And what they came in and said is remind them. You know this in your heart, but remind them, because we are in a year of abundance. And so this is about reminding. So I'd really like to, I have a little bit of a PowerPoint just to keep me on track, and I will be checking some notes, so looking down every once in a while. But I would really like to make this interactive. So if you have examples or questions, please feel free to contribute as we go through it. And then we have a few things we can talk about at the end, as well as a couple of little surprises, right, Louise, for the end? Yeah. So if you hang around to the end, you get a reward.
Yes.
So isn't that a good thing to make you stay? There we go. So I'll just see if I can share my screen so we can get started. Are there any pressing questions before we get rolling? You're all good? And I don't know if I'll be able to see everybody while I'm talking. So if there is a question, Louise, could you keep an eye for that and let me know if anybody has raised a hand or is waving or wanting to say something? Would that be okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I am going to just share and see if you can see me. Oh. Zoom.
Yes, it's there.
Quit unexpectedly.
So we can see you. Yeah.
Are you guys okay? Can you see things?
Yes.
Okay. So again, we'll talk about creating abundance with spirit. And as you know, this is part of Louise's series of Color Your Life Free Zoom series, which she's so generously decided to organize in this year of 2024, which is our year of abundance, as we've all been told. Now, why? My slide is staying the same, but are you guys seeing the second slide?
No.
Okay, thank you, technology.
Yeah, we just tested that.
Let's see what we can do here. I'll stop and share again. Sorry, guys. We just tested this before, and
yeah, it was fine. Oh, you want to restart it? Okay. I don't understand.
You're just muted, Marilyn. Somehow it got muted.
Thank you. I think I was popped out and came back in. So we'll see if we can do this again.
Okay.
Okay. There. Can you see that one?
Yes.
Okay. So at least we're gonna progress. The way I prepared this was so that I would be popped in the little corner, but if I'm not there, I'm good with that. The more I can hide, the better, so to speak. So something about a life lesson I think I have, but it's not the topic for today. So 2024, the year of abundance and prosperity. Here we are in 2024. It adds up to an 8 years, you all know. So my first question is, how's it going so far? Are you experiencing abundance, or are you still waiting patiently for it to come in? How's it feeling? Louise was just saying before the call that stuff is coming in so quickly she can hardly keep track of it all. How many of you are having that experience? I don't see any hands. I see some hands. Oh, some. Jennifer? Yeah, good. Anybody else? Vicky, yay. So some of you are having it come in fast and furious abundance. I can only see about half of you at one time. So, and others, are you still waiting patiently for it to come in? Yeah? Or you're not quite sure?
Well, you know, sometimes it takes time.
Yeah.
You want something so badly that you wish for it, you try to manifest for it, but sometimes, you know, you have to wait just a little bit longer so the right timing come. And so maybe
Some of us too are still working on clearing out some of that yuck that came up in our lives the end of last year, the first couple of months. And I don't know about this group, but the eclipse really threw me for a bit of a loop, and April was really kind of bumpy. So May is just starting to feel a little bit better. So you're right, Louise, it is about timing, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So as I mentioned, today is a reminder of what you already know in your soul about how to co-create with spirit to create that abundant life. And I want to ask, what is abundance to you? What are you looking for abundance in? Is it things or money or relationships, travel, health? Because it can apply to all of those areas of life, right? How many are looking for abundance in money? Yes, that would be good. How about health?
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So there's abundance in different areas of our life that we can bring in, and working with spirit makes it a little bit easier. And what's really supporting abundance this year is, again, the increase in the global energy of the divine feminine, because that energy is an energy of intuition, a partnership, and creativity. So we're really supported globally from an energetic perspective. And so that's why I think Spirit came in and said, really, this is an opportune time. So help people remember and understand how we can integrate the fact that we are co-creators with Spirit into our life to create abundance that's all in our highest good. And as Louise said, sometimes that timing is in our highest good as well. So let's look at the cycle that creates our reality. I'm sure this looks familiar to everybody here, right? Does it look familiar?
Yes, it does.
So often we start with, what is our reality? What results are we living with? And look at where those come from. So if we look at our beliefs, what we believe, we know impacts our thoughts, and what we think about creates a feeling. And that leads us to taking some kind of action in our life where we get some results. And that reinforces that belief. Sometimes this is a negative cycle. Then we go down a downward spiral, right? If it's positive, the spiral goes upwards. So how is that cycle? Can you think of an example of that cycle in your life at this time?
Well, I think, Marilyn, you know, sometimes it's before we accept to manifest anything, it's like we have to accept that we deserve that. So this is the starting point, I think. Once you believe that you deserve what you can manifest, then it changes the whole cycle and it puts it in a better way of going. So,
Exactly. And we'll talk about how a lot of this is lessons in self-worth. I'm going to give you an example from my own life about creating reality around money, because 2024, there's a big focus on abundance of money, of financial wealth. And I mean, this is a long story because I'm old, but I'll try and shorten it up. So when I was a kid, growing up in a family of 5 kids, mom and dad, we constantly heard there's no money. We didn't have a lot of the toys that other kids have. We didn't go on family vacations. We moved often, I'm sure, so that mom and dad could keep up with the rent. I think by the time I was 18, I'd lived in 32 different houses. I don't know why I made that count and it stuck with me, but it did. So we heard often that there was no money, but we were happy and it was like, yeah, okay, that's just the way life is. So there's one story that really sticks with me, and some of you, I think, have probably heard this, is I was in grade 6 and it was time for the Christmas concert, to sing in the Christmas concert. And we were told that everyone had to wear a white shirt, a gray skirt, because in those days, girls always had to wear dresses to school. And the girls needed to have red tights for Christmas. Well, I decided, because my family had no money, that I was just not going to sing in the choir because I thought my mom and dad would not have the money to buy the red tights. So I told my teacher that I'm not going to sing because my mom and dad don't have money for red tights. She got very upset and said, who was I to deny my voice to sing for God? So it's like, okay. But I still held my ground. And so she called my mom, and my mom bought the tights, and I sang in the choir for the Christmas concert. However, that made an impact on me in terms of, a negative experience around money. So around the same time, age 10, I decided to start earning my own money. So what I did was I made Barbie doll clothes by hand and sold them at my Brownie and Girl Guide markets, quite successfully, which was good. That was the beginning of my sewing career as well. And then at 12, when we moved city from Edmonton to Calgary, I decided to be an entrepreneur and babysit. So I made up my own flyers by hand and went around the neighborhood, put them in mailboxes, and got a lot of babysitting jobs out of that and made my own money. Then at 15, grade 10, I was like, okay, I'm getting a real job. So I started waitressing while I was going to school and did that all the way through university, in addition to a few other jobs that I held in my 3rd and 4th year. I think I worked 3 different jobs and went to school full time. But I had enough money to buy a couple of cars along the way and pay for my education and my clothes. And so I decided that I needed to be responsible and earn my own money. So when I was in my adulthood, that concept of, you got to keep working, you don't have a lot of money, played out in my family with my husband and my kids. We struggled for many years with, over the years of having 4 children, about robbing Peter to pay Paul. And, we couldn't do this for our kids, we could do that, etc. And then in 2009, I heard about the book, The Secret. I thought, this is the answer. And I remember reading it in one day while I was at a rink with my son in his first hockey camp. And I was like, okay, this is the answer. I'm so excited. Just think positive and feel that you're going to have the money and you'll have the money. And so I did. And I was like, okay, I'm going to think I have the money. I'm going to write thank you on the bills as I pay them. I'm going to give to charity because I understood that money was energy and it needed to flow. What goes out can come back in. So I was putting all these principles into practice. Nothing was happening. Nothing was changing. And so we just went on, and I worked harder and harder because I thought, okay, I got to work harder and harder. You have to make more money. What else can I do? And still it was a struggle. And then as I was crunching the numbers a couple of years before my retirement, so this is maybe about 5 years ago, I kept crunching the numbers going, yeah, the numbers say we'll be fine on my reduced income in retirement. But I was still afraid. I still didn't believe it. And I wasn't believing the numbers on a piece of paper. And so as I was looking back and thinking, okay, what is my problem here with money? And I realized that my whole life I grew up with the mantra of no money, no money. And so I never had money because I kept thinking that. And also, what came to mind out of the blue was a rhyme that I learned as a kid. And I forget what the name of it is, but it's like Monday's child is fair faced, Tuesday's child is full of grace. It goes through the week, and Saturday's child has to work hard for a living. And guess what day of the week I was born on? So I had this core belief from the time of, I don't know, 8 or 10, that I would have to always work hard for a living. So I worked harder and harder and harder just to make things work. It never really brought in a lot more money, but it did impact my health and my time for my family. So that's when I decided I got to let that go. That's got to be released. And once I did, something flicked a switch. And flipping that switch dropped me into my heart where I could believe, yeah, we're going to have money. I am not going to worry about this anymore. I released the worry to spirit and said, I just trust that we're going to have the money to happily pay the bills comfortably and to do the things we love to do. And guess what? Since that day, we've had more money in our bank account than we have our whole married life, even though my income now is only a third of what it used to be. But it was almost, you could almost feel that switch flipping when I dropped into my heart and really, really believed it and let go of those limiting beliefs, and that one, especially with the rhyme that I didn't even know I had. So that's my example. So do you have an example like that, everybody? Can you think of one? And sort of follow it through as we talk about the cycle. So changing the cycle, right? Let's change it. We need to change it. We need to get rid of those limiting beliefs. And the first thing to do is to recognize that we have an issue. And some people wonder if abundance is even in the cards for them. Do you have somebody that you worry about that, oh my God, they just struggle and I wish things could get better for them, but they don't seem to care and they're just in their life of lack. And so one thing we have to look at is maybe for that person that we're so worried about, abundance isn't in the picture for them. Maybe this lifetime they chose to experience a life of poverty and struggle, and so that's their life path. The other thing we need to remember is that we're only responsible for ourselves, not for other people. So we're only responsible for what we're experiencing and changing what we're experiencing. So when you look at yourself, where do you desire abundance, but you have some lack there? Do you have a space or are you good? Because if you're good, you've either figured out the secret or learning about abundance and learning about abundance and bringing it in, you've already learned that lesson. So think about where you desire but lack abundance. And are you meant to experience in this life? And if so, what type? Is it wealth? Is it health? Is it love? Is it joy? Is it travel? What is it that you would like abundance in? So think about yourself and what your life is like and where you're wanting abundance. Is it in the cards for you? And again, are you already experiencing abundance, but you want more? And then check in with spirit about the answer. And how do you do that? How do you check in with spirit? Anybody?
Well, you know what, Marilyn? Because you're saying, how can you experience abundance, like how can you feel about that? I think also when you don't feel that you are in a need of, it changes the way you see abundance, you know, because abundance can be in so many things, you know, just the fact that you're able to have a nice place to live, a work, or it could be so many different things, you know, like you're able to do an activity that you like. Everything becomes abundance when it's not something that you are in need and you're in and you cannot have it.
Well, and you're right. And when we think we're in need of it, that message, we'll talk about language in a minute, but that message out to the universe is, I don't have it because I need it because I don't have it. And what the universe is hearing is, oh, you don't have it. Okay, you don't have it. So you're right, Louise. And seeing it everywhere in our life and acknowledging that brings more of that in as well.
Yeah.
And when we check in with spirit about what we, what is my path around abundance, we can ask in a lot of different ways, right? We could look for, pose a question and have messages come in through a dream or just through your intuition, or you can see signs. We all communicate with spirit in different ways. Annika, I saw you sit up. Did you have something to add?
I was just thinking, you're just making me think, I was reflecting when you're asking about abundance, and, I don't really feel like I want for much in some areas. Like I feel pretty happy about, most in lots of different parts of my life. And yet there's still pockets, but your story really helped, just made me reflect about my relationship with money. And, I grew up with a father that had, he grew up during the Depression. And so just this huge lack, like that there was not, and never to spend your money, never spend, don't spend the money, don't spend an extra penny on interest. Like there was lots of family rules that came with it. And I remember the process I went through to really, like, I felt like I was in prison around money. All my friends were doing fun things and I wouldn't do anything fun because I was to work and not to spend my money. When I released that and started to realize like that money is always flowing. Yes, you spend it and then you make it back, and then you spend it and you make it back. And so it was just I felt like I released myself from a prison, and that was really, it was a really powerful experience for me. So yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And you just made me think of the fear we have attached, especially
yes.
to money. And in my adult life with 4 kids and a husband, it was like fear that what if we don't have enough for the mortgage next month, or or what are people going to think if we can't purchase something? So lots of fear attached, and when we have that feeling of fear, that's perpetuates that reality, right? Because we're putting that energy out there.
Well, and you made me, like, in sharing your story and reflecting on my own, it just helped me to identify the other area where I probably do crave more abundance. And it reminds me of maybe a process I need to go through in that area of my life too.
That area. Yeah.
What are the beliefs I have in that area of my life, and I don't know what the answer is yet, but anyway, I really appreciate that. You just made me think.
Good.
And you just said something very interesting also, Marilyn, to Annika. It's the judgment. How other people around us will see the fact that we don't have this, or we are spending too much, or the extremes are, goes for both sides, but the judgment, and
can stop
once
us.
you relieve that, I mean, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. One of those blocks that we're going to talk about how to release them. When we look at changing the cycle, so we've identified the issue, like Annika, you were just saying, it's not money, but it's a different area, and we can all sort of look at our lives and figure that out. So then we look at the patterns. So we look at our thoughts and our feelings, and what are we putting out there that's creating our reality, right? Because we have a choice around our perspective on how we look at things and how we think about things. We have freedom of choice. So, how do you feel about your situation around that thing that you want to bring in more abundance about it? And what do you really want? And some people, sometimes we all can um, fall into thinking negatively about something like, oh, I'll never have that car, there's no way, that's or just, I think I heard something somewhere that only jerks drive Ram trucks or whatever. So it's like, oh, you have that sitting in your mind as well. I guess I'll never have a Ram truck because I don't want to be a jerk. So that judgment thing, Louise, right? Or, so really that perspective of negativity around, oh, well, I guess I'll never have money. Look at how hard I'm working. It's never going to come in. It's nothing's changing. Maybe I'm just not meant to, it's not my destiny, maybe it's negative karma, maybe I did something bad in a past life, or that, now I have to pay for it, or um, it's just bad luck. It's just not my luck to have abundance anywhere. And those mindsets are all negative and put us into sort of that victim mode that create the actions that create our reality. We don't go out and look for anything positive to change our reality. And as you mentioned, Louise, a lot of that thought process is tied to fears and judgment. And as we talked about earlier, are we worth having abundance in our life? So we can get stuck into a real pattern of a negativity with thoughts and feelings around what we'd like to have in our life abundantly. Are you going to add to that, Louise? Yeah.
Yes, and what you said when you were talking about your story as you were growing in your life, you did something very important. First of all, you took the decision to change something, but you have put it yourself in action. If you never take an action or put yourself in, hot water, so it's gonna force you to take action, it's more difficult to, you know, have all this energy coming to you to change what you're living or to change what abundance could be in your life. So
Exactly. And that's after we identify the belief, the underlying belief to those patterns, that is the next step, is to take some action to change it. And so if you can think about your own situation and where you would like to create abundance, do you have any patterns of thoughts and feelings, especially the feelings about your situation, that keep cycling back, keep repeating? Because those are the things that are going to point you towards the underlying belief or the block that's blocking you from moving ahead to creating abundance there. Those things that keep cycling through. And this is really the key, that belief section of the cycle, because that's what starts the whole thing going, right? Creates the thoughts,
yeah.
the feelings, the actions, and then creates the outcomes. So what if you're in a negative spin, what is that underlying belief or the block to you creating? What's stopping you from having abundance in your life? And I thought I had it when I figured out the secret. I thought, oh, I just have to think more positively and feel it, and act like I have abundance, and then it'll be there. But I had that hidden block even deeper about those that mantra from my childhood, and then also that silly rhyme that I had taken to heart and integrated it into my life. So sometimes we have to go quite deep to find out, what is that block in our core beliefs that's stopping us from creating abundance in our life? So where are they coming from? And that takes some time to figure it out. It's not a revelation that's going to come overnight. So how do we do that, right? How do we figure out what those limiting beliefs are? Well, the first thing is um, to understand. So understand that we're not a victim. We're not a victim. We have the power, and Spirit really wants us to know that. Like, we have all the power and responsibility for our own life. and that we're not alone. We alone are responsible for our life. Like no one else can make things happen for us because we can choose to say no. We have freedom of choice. If we can choose not to be a victim, we can choose to have control and power over our life. And that freedom of choice allows us to go in whatever direction we want along our path. So to understand those three main things, that we're responsible, we're responsible, it's not something outside that's making or creating our life, we are, and that we have freedom of choice to create a life that we want, which includes abundance or not. And then to get curious about where that limiting belief came from, and to look at it from the perspective of, okay, so where'd it come from? Sort of step out yourself and be that observer. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before, but sort of pull yourself out of
Yeah.
any kind of negative situation that you've been in and kind of observe your life and go, oh, okay. So where did this all come from? Like, why am I thinking that way and feeling that way? Like, what's at the root of this? And why is this happening in my life? What am I supposed to learn from this? So that's a real key turning point when instead of saying, oh my God, this is happening again, what am I going to do? My life is so horrible. If we change our perspective and go, okay, this is happening again. What am I supposed to learn from this? And in our house now, when we look at repeated things happening, we go, okay, it's getting bigger and bigger. The universe is bringing the cosmic 2x4 and whacking us across the head till we figure it out. So we look at each other, my husband and I go, okay, it's the cosmic 2x4 coming. We don't want it to get any bigger. Let's figure this out. So what am I supposed to learn from this situation that I can flip the switch? I can change that belief. I can find that belief. And one way to do that is to get out of our head. We can think about stuff so much that we keep putting out negativity and we get into that spiral. But if we use that feminine, divine feminine energy and drop into our heart and really feel, what do we deserve and that we're an amazing person. And I don't know about you guys, but I struggle to figure out how to do that. I heard people say, well, just drop into your heart, and like, well, what is that? So for me, and this might work for you, I'm sure you guys all have your own way to do this, but I just visualize the heart area, the heart chakra, in the colors of pink for the higher heart and green for the heart chakra. Because to me, those are very loving colors. Like pink is the color of love and Archangel Ariel with abundance, and green is Archangel Raphael, all about healing those blocks and those things that we don't need anymore, that don't serve us. So I just picture myself in there, in that space within, and allow myself to figure out, okay, what's happening in there? What do I need to address from a feeling perspective, from a feeling of loving myself and loving the lessons that spirit is bringing me. So that's the way I do it. And maybe we can share at the end how other people do that, because the more we learn, the more we can help each other with that. But as you're going through this process of figuring out, so what's at the bottom of this? Why am I not getting it? Remember to be gentle with yourself and just to be open to what spirit's going to bring in for you, and to listen to your intuition, however you call it, thoughts that you might have or voices you might hear. You're not going crazy. That spirit speaking with you. Mind movies that you might have, dreams, you might ask for signs. Am I on the right track? I always use the example of, if I'm on the right track, spirit, show me a penny. But don't expect sometimes to see a penny on the floor. Well, that might be what it is. But you might run into a person and her name is Penny, or you might hear a song about Penny. So just be open to the different signs and your intuition, that spirit will come in and help you with figuring out what that block is. But get curious and look at those patterns. And then also, I'm just going to see if the next slide talks about this, but also give yourself a safe space to do it, and the time, right? That's always been my enemy, is I've never given myself the time. I've always rushed off to do it 8,000 things for other people. So give yourself the time to do that and a safe space. And that might be just a nice quiet corner in your home, or it might be walking in nature, which is also Archangel Ariel's space. So you might run into her a little bit more out in nature. Or even a corner of your favorite coffee shop, like whatever feels safe and gives you a space to just come down and connect with your inner self. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yes, it does.
Make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's where we can start to sort of get curious and figure out what that block is. And then when we have our aha moment, I'm just looking at my notes here to make sure um, that we haven't missed anything, is we can start by changing that belief, by taking, as you mentioned, Louise, action. And sometimes what might happen is if we're having trouble getting to our heart, the ego might come in and say, well, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? Or you'll never be successful or whatever. So, and remember, the ego is in our mind, and that's why we want to get into our heart and out of our mind. And it had a purpose, to keep us safe, and it's still trying to do that. But sometimes it's through negativity. So we can just respectfully say, thanks, I know, buddy, that you're trying to keep me safe, but I don't really need to hear that right now. And again, to move into your heart, to sort of put that ego aside. And so the other thing that can help you get into your heart is some people will use meditation, and some people will use breathing exercises. And I wanted to let you know about the Heart Coherence Collaborative. And if you need me to send that by email or something later, just let me know. But it's a group that does that walks you through meditations and breathing to help you stay in your heart, which is really beneficial in terms of living a more heart-centered life. So I wanted to mention them. Sometimes we can also journal to get into our heart. So I just wanted to remind you guys about that.
But
So once we,
Marilyn,
yes, yes,
sorry. If I may just share my thought
yes,
about that, is the fact that we are in our heart. It makes it, I think, might make it easier if we from the start accept that we are all unique. Because,
yeah,
we referred a lot to our education, what our parents have taught us, or, the way it was when we were young in our household and everything. So we grew up in having certain beliefs and, but once we realize that we are unique and that we can figure out exactly what this uniqueness is, I think it brings us closer to our heart, and probably in this changing the cycle that we are in.
yes. And you know what, Louise, thank you for the reminder about being unique, because as we think of ourselves unique and we're dropping into our heart, we're getting in touch with our soul,
Yeah.
our true self, not who we might be trying to be, but our true self and what our path is, and why we're here, our purpose. So
Yes.
really, yeah, our uniqueness is so important because we are all immensely unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then once we get those beliefs, we want to change them, right? By taking that action. Um, and again, being reminded that that belief is part of creating. So to change that belief, we need to make changes in the other part of that cycle, right? So changing our thoughts and feelings is moving our perspective, reframing something. So again, being that in that observer role and looking at, okay, so I actually made a contract with myself a few years ago to go, okay, I'm going to identify every negative thought I have today and reframe it, stop myself and reframe it. And so I was amazed at how many negative thoughts I had in a day. First, I was disappointed in myself, and then I went, okay, be gentle. So just look at this and change your perspective, right? And
Yeah.
so reframe. So changing our perspective and reframing is to the positive is, how do we do that? So if we have a negative thought, and I'm just going to keep using money as an example, sorry you guys, because it's an easy one. So if we talk about, oh, I can't do that, I have no money. If we want to change that, we reframe it to, okay, so what would it look like if I did have money? I can imagine that. I can reframe that to think about what it would look like if I have money and how would that feel. And so that's that changing our perspective. Nobody says we can't imagine what it's like having money and feeling good about money. So why not? We have the power and the freedom of choice to make that decision to change our perspective and reframe. And then once we start thinking more positively about money, like, oh yeah, that would be nice. If I had money, I'd do this. When I have money, I'll do that. We can sort of feel it. And the thing with changing our thoughts and feelings is not only doing it internally, but speaking it, sharing it with other people. That starts to make it real. So speaking it or writing it in a journal, so sharing it. And the important part, and all of you know this because I'm sure you've all looked at, the principles of manifestation, which is what we're working with here, but language is so important, right? So when I looked at my the flicking the switch about my retirement, what my vision was, and I made an attempt to use positive language. So what I said was I wanted to have all the money that I needed to bring in joy in for the people and the things that I loved. And I wanted to be able to pay those monthly obligatory bills with calmness and confidence. What I didn't say is I don't want to worry and I don't want to have any more debt. Because to me, worry and debt were negative words and had a negative vibration. And Vicky, I see you're on this call and you're amazing. And I have to say, I love Vicky. She's a local numerologist and she wrote an amazing book called The Magic of Eight, which is all about abundance and prosperity this year. So I've learned a lot from you, especially around language. So thank you for being here. And I can only see partly everybody. So where are you, Vicky? There you are.
Yeah.
Oh, your book. There's your book. Amazing book,
Yeah.
you guys.
Put
You'll
the
learn a
link,
lot about
put the
abundance.
link in the chat, Vicky. Put the link for your book.
Yeah, we can get it from Amazon or from Vicky, and it's awesome. But language is so important about putting that out there to the universe and also empowering you, because when we use positive language, we feel better about what we're wanting to create, and we can feel it. We can feel that joy. So so that was my little spiel about language. And then when we want to change our action, we have to kind of figure out where we want to go with our actions. We need a clear vision of what we want to create in our life in terms of abundance. So, and this reminds me of my good buddy Tira, who's also here today. When I'm looking at my, future with my working with spirit, I keep hearing her saying, "What do you want? What do you want?" And it's such a hard thing to figure out. Because when I say, I want abundance, well, what does that look like? Right? And for everybody, as you said, Louise, we're all unique. It looks different for everybody. So the clearer we can get on our vision, our destination, or where we want to go, we can describe it in detail. We can see, what we want to do, and really, how we want to feel is important, because those feelings is what puts that energy out to the universe as well. Then we can start taking positive action towards that clear vision. But if we don't have a destination, we'll never get there, and we'll get lost along the way. So we really need a clear vision of what we want to create. And then we start to create that reality by staying in our heart and trusting that we will have it, believing that we will have that clear vision that we created, and getting excited about it, knowing that it's coming, feeling like you're already there. And the biggest thing about trust is to, once we have our destination, is to release being in control of how we get there. Trust that spirit will help us with that journey, that opportunities will come our way to get there. And for some of us that like to have control, that's a little bit hard to do, is to trust. Spirit knows our path, they know us best. Our guardian angels have been with us 24/7 every lifetime that we've had. They know what's in our best interest. And so once we can say, okay, I want to get here, guys, help me out, trust, and then be open to the opportunities that are going to come your way and watch for them. And they'll come in different directions. And when I'm working with people, I always say, you know what, be open, because if we have decided I'm going to get to abundance this way, we're looking down our one path and we're going to miss all the better opportunities that come over here because we're not even looking for them. So the thing is to be open to getting there and to changing, getting there by changing that core belief. And once we do, then we're at the back end or close to the back end of learning those lessons. And yeah, I'm worthy. I deserve, why everyone else can have abundance. I'm worth having abundance too. I'm amazing. I'm unique. I'm a child of the divine. Source loves me. I am worth having abundance. So it really is about worthy, and not, as Louise said, not judging ourselves in terms of that little voice creeping in. Well, who do you think you are? It's, yeah, I'm awesome and I'm worthy of having abundance in whatever area of life that I choose. So that's when you know that that core belief has changed, and all those positive feelings and thoughts and actions will create that abundance.
And you know what I've noticed, Marilyn, also because you're talking about opportunities. Often some people they want to take, or they want to wait for the opportunity, or just take some kind of opportunities because they think that that's the one they need for the ride they want to their goal. But sometimes you have to take different kind of opportunities, because there's not just one that is good for you to get where you want to go. So you have to be careful and not dismiss, maybe this opportunity that doesn't look so good, but maybe you should take it because it's going to bring you to another point. And from there, you go closer and closer to your, the finishing line. And sometimes it's surprising how an opportunity that you would have never thought that would have given you so many advantages into bringing you closer to your dream. And if you would have missed it, well, you would be still waiting. Now you're getting, in action and closer. And finally, it opens your mind, it opens the doors, and it makes you think more positive, makes you think that everything is possible because you took that insignificant opportunity to start with.
So you're developing trust in yourself too, and in your decision making. And you're right, Louise, baby steps. And that's the part about being open and looking at everything, being curious and like, okay, you know what? And if you're not sure about what decision to make, check in with your team, check in with your spiritual team, ask the question. The more we ask, the easier it is for us to hear the answers. So ask in different ways, like, listen to your intuition. Some of us will use kinesthetic testing to get some confirmation of what we think might be the right thing. So work with spirit around, is this the right choice for me? And I think we were talking just before we logged on, Louise, about one of my decisions this year was to do, I told Spirit, I said, I want to do 20 paid one-on-one readings with people in my intuitive counseling every month. And then some of these opportunities came by, and one of them was to start doing spiritual fairs. And I was like, I had a panic attack. I was like, oh, you mean I have to get out there with a whole bunch of people? And then it was like, okay, Spirit, is this what I'm supposed to do? And they said, yes. So listen, and even though it might be a little bit scary, once you take that step, it's been awesome. I've met so many amazing people through spiritual parents. It's been great. So if we listen and trust that Spirit will present us with opportunities that are in our best interest, it's going to work out and we can change that core belief. So the other part of going through this cycle is we don't have to do it alone. You know that saying, no person is an island. We're all connected. And so reach out for help and support. Like, we're connected physically, but we're also connected energetically. So when we grow, everyone benefits. So look to your loved ones, friends, family, colleagues, neighbors, whoever it is that you feel comfortable with. Reach out for help in terms of making these changes on the cycle. Some people might decide to approach professionals for some help. Others, their spiritual community, your spiritual buddies, whoever you are comfortable with, to help you get some insights into, okay, so when am I making negative comments? What are my triggers that really get me going? Because that's going to give us a clue into what that underlying limiting belief is. And, people in your life may actually be the ones to say, whoa, that was me. I can do that with my husband quite easily. Stop, reframe. You don't want to go down that rabbit hole. That was negative. And so when we have that help, we just get on moving on that cycle and changing it a lot easier. But don't forget about your spiritual team, right? That's what we're talking about today, is working through this cycle with Spirit as well. Spirit's always there for you. Like, they're just waiting for us to ask. We have guardian angels and archangels and all sorts of teams of angels and guides and past loved ones and ascended masters. They're all there for us. And all we have to do is ask for help, and then be open and trust that they're going to answer, and listen and be aware of how those answers will come in. And again, we talked earlier about Archangel Ariel. She is the archangel of manifestation and abundance, in fact, and also courage, because sometimes it takes courage to move through these changes and really look deeply at ourselves and our beliefs. So she's there to help. And if you're wanting to connect with her, surrounding yourself with pick, like Louise today, or our being in nature will help a connection with her. And Archangel Michael's always there with for us as well. And his color is sapphire blue. And really, we did not plan this, did we, Louise? The color. But and he's there to help us release things that no longer serve us. So if we're really getting stuck in a negativity spiral, we can just say, Michael, come on, give me a hand here and help me release some of this negativity. And once you release, remember to bring in the positive. Remember to bring in the beautiful light of Spirit to help you stay in that positive state. So that's a little bit about bringing in your supports. And the other thing, as Louise mentioned earlier, is give yourself some time. It's all in the timing. And this is not an overnight process. This is part of our life lessons and how we work through life. And, if you look at my example, so from age 10 to retirement, like, it took me 55 years to figure it out. Now, granted, that's a pretty slow learner. You do not have to take that amount of time, but it will take some time to make changes. Now, it's kind of cool that we're having this talk today when just, what's the date today? 2 nights ago, we had the full moon, which is a time for releasing things that no longer serve us. So we have room to bring in all the new abundant things that we want to create in our lives. But we have a full moon every month, so we can work with it every month, because we also want to consider the other energies of the year and of our life path in terms of numerology and the month and the day. There's so many other things that impact the energy that we're living within. And then there's our unique timeline that we come into this life with. We come here with a timeline that's, certain events are to happen at specific times because they're aligned with our highest good. And so that's sometimes where patience comes in. We're like, And maybe that's why I have to wait 55 years to figure it out, because that's when it would work for me the best. And maybe one of my life lessons was patience. So hopefully I'm through that one. But trust that things will happen on divine timing, and that it's always in our highest good. So it's that trusting again and being open and approaching life with love and trust will help us get through that timing piece. Did you have something to add to the timing, Louise?
Well, I agree with you because timing is everything. And me too. I had to wait a long time for different things to happen. And let's say just an example, like for an artist, it takes ages to get to a point where you can say, okay, everything is going the way I wanted or that I was, hoping. And it takes patience because now I understand that everything I did up to now had a reason to be, and they were all linked in a certain way that made me who I am right now. I mean, what I can do now with all that, and that's the fun part of it. I
Yeah.
wish I was 30 years younger and be at that point so I would have 30 years more. But there's a good point in being older and appreciate all this process. And like I was telling to somebody yesterday, I received an offer that I was never ever thinking that I would receive. And I was like, so surprised. I could not believe because sometimes you wish on things and well, they don't really come or they don't come when you think you need them. So, and last night this person called me just to know how I was and offered me a big event as an artist in 2025, and I was not at all expecting that.
Awesome.
So it was very surprising. And at the same time, it will be next year that I'm going to celebrate my 65th birthday. I don't know, for people, it's not always so joyful, but let's say that I'll make it joyful because it's going to be joyful because it's going to celebrate my art. And so that's going to be my right timing finally for something that I was wishing for a long time. So,
Wonderful.
you have to think that patience is your friend, even though sometimes you don't think, but it's there for you,
Yes, you're
really.
right. And in fact, Spirit just had me, I write a weekly newsletter. Some of you know that, but my last newsletter a couple of weeks ago, Spirit had me write a whole newsletter about patience. So it is, and congratulations, Louise. And you know what's so
Thank you.
cool is when you got that news, you didn't go, "Oh no, not me, can't be." You're just like, amazing, right? And you probably express gratitude, and that's one of the things
Absolutely.
that moves us forward as well, right? Is having
Yeah.
that attitude
Yeah.
of gratitude for
Yeah.
all the
And it's
amazing things that happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to have gratitude every day, every second, every hour, every half hour on something that you have, or something that has happened that make you, feel better, or feeling that you're growing or getting, closer to your dreams. Because you know, I hear often, people say, well, for you, it's so easy. It's been easy now that you have this, some people think that it's always easy when they look at it at other people and say, well, she's there, it's that, she's successful or has some success. But there's all this work in
Mhm.
in there that
Yeah.
that the most people don't see. And that many people don't talk about, because the only thing they want to show is the fact that they have some success at something. But there's a lot of work in the back. There's a lot of, understanding and accepting. And so it's important to take time to believe that with time can bring you everywhere you want to go.
Yes. And you know, as you're talking about all of that work, that really is being grateful for not only the, you know, the things, the people, the places in our life that bring us to abundance, but all of the lessons that we learn along the journey that contributes to our spiritual growth. We can
Absolutely.
be so even, you know, they say our biggest lessons give us the greatest growth. So even the nasty stuff we can be grateful for because it moves us forward
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
having abundance and having good things in our life. And Spirit also said, and this is their words, they said, be grateful for all things, big and small, easy and hard. So I think that's what they were getting to was, you know, the baby steps, the big events,
Yeah.
you know, like celebrating your 65th year with a beautiful show, or, you know, just,
Yeah.
hey, my coffee wasn't cold when I got to it this morning. Thank you. You know, it's
Yes.
like you say, every day and every moment. And they
Yeah.
also really, really, really wanted me to emphasize for you guys, be grateful for how wonderful you are. And that goes back to the uniqueness Louise mentioned. Like, you are awesome. Everybody is individually awesome on their own
Yeah.
journey. And the amazing things that you do every day, the positivity that you have, when you're in your heart, the love that you put out that impacts everybody. There's that huge ripple effect around the world. So
Yes.
be grateful for yourself and how awesome you are, and stay in your heart because that's where we can do that the easiest. So they really wanted
Yeah.
me to remind you about being grateful for yourself.
Yeah.
And
And I
then,
think
yeah,
also when you decide to challenge yourself, you know, when you dare to challenge yourself, because sometimes we don't, because we think, oh no, and we go to this all cycle back, you know, like, and you have to believe that you can do so. Challenge yourself. If it's not working, well, you'll challenge yourself in something else or in a different way after that. But it's good to get out of your comfort zone, because most of the time we stay in that comfort zone and nothing changes. And you know, people say, well, nothing is changing, I'm not you know, getting this or that. But get out of your comfort zone. And I'm an example of that, and I'm going to tell you why. And I have somebody here that can certify what I'm going to say, Joel, because me, I'm not a computer person. I don't like computers. I don't like that. Zoom for me, it's my first fear. It's like, but I decided to do this series to challenge myself in so many different things. And I think so far I'm not the best, but at least I was able to so far manage two conference like we're having today, and we're gonna have two more. So it's a big challenge for me. So I am thinking, if I can do this, I mean, you can all challenge yourself with something that, you know, creates a fear in you when you think about it. So
yeah,
I believe in you.
you're right. And it's trusting, right? Trusting in
Yeah, yeah,
yourself
yeah,
and
yeah,
trusting that
yeah,
you
yeah,
have you have help. And when you do, you finally feel that shift that you can and will
yeah,
create abundance in your life, that you deserve it, that it is there for you. And so
yeah,
that's when you've reached your destination because you have learned how
yeah,
to co-create with spirit. You've released those limiting beliefs. And Spirit wanted me to remind you that, you know, it still might not be smooth sailing because we have different life lessons along the way. But so there might be a few little tweaks, but again, to trust that you are on the journey that you're meant to have. So always trust, believe that you will get there, and allow the energy to flow. And Vicky, I hear you saying all the time, with the number 8 this year, as above, so below, the energy just needs to flow in and out, and it will bring in abundance for you. So allow it to flow and stay in your heart, stay in that place of
yeah,
love, because that's the positive type of life that we would want to create. So that's that's where we get the cycle working for us, is when we feel that shift. And lastly, Spirit wanted you to remember a few things, that we're all connected in that divine feminine energy of intuition, co-creativity. So this is not only an 8-year, but that feminine energy adding to it. And the movement, this is also, if we listen to some of the spiritual gurus, this is the year of the heart. So for us to stay in heart energy just creates more beautiful experiences for us to experience abundance. And to remember that you have the power, that you're, the only person that's responsible for you is you, and you have that power. And if we're worried about judgment, I love the saying, and I use this with a class of high school kids that I was working with around the heart chakra a few weeks ago, is I love this. It's no one else's, it's not your business what other people think of you. Like, it doesn't matter. And I remember when my kids were growing up and they come home and worry about what other kids have said to them. I said, well, it doesn't change the amazing person that you are. That's just them saying that, but it doesn't change anything. It's who you feel you are is who you are. So you have the power to create that abundance that you want. Find those limiting beliefs and thoughts and feelings and actions that don't serve you anymore. You can be done with them. A lot of those limiting beliefs that we have were created before we were 7 years old from the adults in our life, or maybe we brought them over from a past life. So we can let them go. We're free to let them go. And then reach out for help, trust, and believe that you can do this, and be grateful and share that new abundance that you have, because we are all connected. And the more we put out, the more that we'll bring in. So that's what they wanted to remind us of. And I think that Zoom is just maybe gonna make me, isn't that interesting? Zoom says I'm done.
I don't see that. Okay. You're muted.
So Zoom, Spirit acts in weird ways. So Spirit cut me off just as I was done. So that's awesome. So, we can, so what they wanted to say is that the last thing is Spirit's waiting for you. So are you ready?
And you wanted to share, you told
Yes.
me before we started, what happened to you
Yes.
just before we started.
I have to tell you, Spirit works in beautiful and amazing ways. So I was getting ready to put this together, and I was saying, okay, you guys, like, what am I going to say? And I was getting started. And I had Louise's deck out, card deck. She's created a beautiful, beautiful card deck. And I use Oracle cards in my work. So this is her beautiful card deck. It's amazing. It's called Magical Dreams and the Power of Determination. So I had it out and I was putting it away, and I apologized. I always apologize to the cards when this happens. They all fell out of the box onto the floor, and I'm like, oh my God. And I apologize to the cards. One card went off by itself, and I'm like, okay, this is Spirit talking to me. So I picked up the card, and this is while I'm getting ready to put this together. You have to see the card, you guys.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And it's called The Power of Determination.
And it's one of the bonus card of the deck, because in the deck you have the cards with affirmations, but you have 6 other cards that are called bonus cards. And they have one affirmation on each one to define an area where you need to put more attention. So it completes your reading. So that's funny that it's the card that fell out of the box.
So it was just, to me, it just emphasized that we have the power, and it's that determination, that feeling in our heart that this can happen. We can do this. So it was so beautiful that, and I mean, all the cards are so beautiful, that fell out to just say, okay, this is good. And then this morning when I was saying, okay, how's this going to go? Michael, who's around all the time, do you have any messages for the group? So do you mind if I share another card with you guys?
Yeah,
Share the card.
Yes.
So this is the card that he would like you to know. Yes, you are correct. look at her celebrate. And that's how we ended up celebrating when we get to that place where we eliminate those limiting beliefs. So when you are, wherever you are on your journey with creating abundance, you're correct. You're in the right spot, he's saying, and you've listened to your inner guidance and have made wise choices. So keep moving forward, which is, I thought, was so amazing. And
Yeah.
the number on this card is number 338. 3 in angel numbers, it's all about your spiritual team is behind you. What are we talking about today? 8 is the number of abundance. Awesome. We add them together. 3 and 8 is 11, which we add those two numbers together. Each of the ones talk about new beginnings. And when we add those two together, it's a 2, which is all about working in partnership with spirit, perhaps. And in angel numbers, the number 2 is don't stop believing. Don't stop believing in what you can create. So Michael's given us lots of messages about moving forward and creating abundance in our life.
Yeah,
So thank you, you
absolutely.
guys, for listening.
Well, thank you very much, Marilyn. And
You're welcome.
you know, it was my great pleasure to have you for this second Zoom series. And the next one will be in September. And then after that, I will conclude the year in December with a very special Zoom. I'm not going to say anything about it right now, but I have a very creative idea, and I hope that you will all be here to celebrate that. And Marilyn, you wanted to offer something for the people that are
Yes.
here today?
Before that, does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to share about their journey? I know I did all the talking, and so it's like time for me to be quiet. Or you're all just processing. Chris. Chris.
Hey, Marilyn, Louise, thank you both for this. This is awesome. And you helped me. I got your newsletter this morning. And I read most of the way through that, and then I had to get going on things this morning. But just having you do this presentation, I was able to work through one of my limiting beliefs.
Awesome.
That I thought was all about this lifetime, but it ended up being also a past lifetime. And it was repeated this time in a slightly different way, but with the same tones. And so I was writing all the way through to get it all down and worked it through. So awesome. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, Chris. That's great. And Chris just mentioned my weekly newsletter. When I was preparing for this, I also put a newsletter out every Friday, and Spirit said, well, just write about what you're going to talk about. I'm like, oh, okay, I can do that. Tara, did you have something?
I have something that's really monstrously big, so I'm going to try to keep it in a small container for y'all. The story kind of goes back to 1990 to about 2020, and that's a time in my life where things were really abundantly struggling. Like money was tight, and I was just really struggling. And about 2017, I went to see an astrologist who said, you have a 30-year karmic cycle that because in a past life, you did something really bad. And so you've got to pay for it. And so you brought that up, Marilyn, and thank you for bringing it up, because since I'm going to have to watch the rest of this afterwards, because I've been processing really hard through that. And what I discovered was as I went back into some of those memories, I could feel how I still had those thought processes. It's like, yes, you can do it. No, you can't. Yes, you can. You can have that. No, you can't. It's not going to come. Yes, it is. Right. And I was always bombarded with those. And at the time, I thought that, after I heard that I had this 30-year cycle, I thought, well, that was my 30-year karmic cycle because I said I did something bad in a past life. And since just in this call, what I've realized, what's kind of come in from Spirit has been that I got these beautiful lessons. I got all these lessons. So in 30 years, I got these lessons of, when Spirit was saying, no, you can't, I still had all the opportunity to stand up and say, yes, I can, and make the, but I had to learn kind of through the hard stuff. And now when I look forward, if stuff like that happens to me again, I'm not nearly as scared, right? Like I know that I'll
Yeah.
survive, even if it happens the same way. And I was still able to raise my son, and I always had gas in the car. I always paid, I had a house, I paid the mortgage, everything always worked out, but it wasn't as flush as I wanted it to be. I wanted more. I was looking for more. So anyway, thank you for bringing this up, and for helping me to process through that. That's beautiful.
That's awesome. That's great. Thank you. Annika.
I think you've caused a lot of good reflection, and I really thanks Louise for the opportunity, and Mare, thanks so much for sharing. And I guess I also just wanted to notice something that I think is really beautiful, that is like you're giving a talk on abundance, but you and Louise are demonstrating abundance in the way that you are with each other, and the way, like, even recognizing Vicky and Tira, and being in a community that is about abundance, I think also helps to create abundance, and just a community that supports each other and doesn't see it. You're not in competition, you are in support, and showing that. I just think that adds a whole other layer to this talk. So it was just really beautiful to watch that part too.
Thanks
thank you.
thanks for bringing that up. And I have to give Vicky one more kudo, because when I said to Spirit I want to do 20 readings, and then they presented the opportunity for doing spiritual fairs, although in my mind I call them woo-woo fairs. I kept hearing Vicky say, you got to get out there. So it's like, okay, Vicky said it. Now I have the opportunity. Okay, guys, I guess I'm supposed to do this. So thanks for the push, Vicky.
And the world is a better place because of it, Mare.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we all have our, blessings to bring to other people and around us, it's just that we have to find what is the best suited for each one of us,
Yeah.
Me, it's through my art or creation or creativity. So, I would not be a speaker as others, and it's not my path. So I just have to concentrate on what I can do, what is my uniqueness. So what you're saying, Annika, means a lot, because that's what we're meant to be, unique, and find what we have to do to be part of the community and enrich everybody by our blessings and what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? You good? You want the surprise? I mean, we think it's a good surprise.
Well, yeah.
And thank you for coming. Most of you know that I also do sort of one-on-one intuitive counseling by Zoom, and I have a community that we're looking at bringing spirit into healthcare, etc. But for this group, if you would like to have a one-on-one session or any of my services, and I can give you my website, just use the code when you're booking abundance 20, and it'll be 20% off. And if you don't need it, but a loved one would like one, please feel free to transfer it to somebody else, and just email me and let me know. So I'll put my website and my email in the chat. How does that sound? Would that be helpful?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
And for my part, well, I'm gonna put the link for my Etsy boutique if you are interested in buying my deck. You have the direct link with the abundance word too, and you will have a reduced price of 15% for my deck. So it's my first deck. It will not be the last, but I'm very proud about it, because it's about empowering yourself in your lives. So I'm very happy about that, and to share that with the world.
It's a beautiful deck, just beautiful. And every time I look at a card, because Louise, layers images. I don't know how you do that, Louise, but every time I look at a card, I see more in it and
Yeah.
more messages come from it. So
Thank you.
It's
It's the way I
beautiful.
paint. I wanted to do it the same way I paint when I paint in my studio. It was a challenge. It was a big challenge for many reasons. But like I said, you have to put yourself, out there and challenge yourself in so many ways so you can, reach your goals. So
yeah, yeah.
big challenge. Yeah.
And we talked about Vicky's book. The
Yeah, the
other
link is in the
yeah.
chat. Yeah.
The other offering or thing that's going on in this group here, just because it might be a benefit to some, is Tira is a master empath, and she is going to be
Yes.
having a full day workshop in Calgary on June 22nd. I'm sharing her wisdom of how to work with the gift of being an empath. And there is information on my website about that if you guys look under special events. But she's pretty awesome and taught me how to work with my gifts so I can figure out some stuff in my life. So yeah, if that's something that you're interested in, feel free to register for the day, and early registration is still around till May 31st. So good. So it'll be good to see some of you there.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being there today. I felt privileged to have you all. And thank you, Marilyn. It was beautiful.
Well, thank you. It was fun.
Enriching, and I feel blessed. Thank you.
Me too. And
So-
the recording, Louise, will you make it available?
Oh,
or How will
yes.
that?
I have to stop the recording. And well, I wish you well for the summer. And we'll see again each other maybe in September. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.